The cafeteria buzzed with the usual lunchtime noise, clattering trays, soft chatter, and sunlight pouring through the tall windows, but for 12-year-old Nia, everything felt strangely heavy that day. She had only been at this new private school for 2 weeks, and every step she took felt like walking into a world that kept reminding her she didn't fit its polished, perfect image. Her father had worked tirelessly to get her admitted here, believing it would open doors to opportunities she had always deserved. But as she clutched the straps of her backpack and stepped into the crowded lunchroom, she felt more like an outsider than ever. If you believe kindness, empathy, and second chances can change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Thread. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that matter. Nia took a deep breath, trying to ignore the curious eyes of students who seemed to pause their conversations whenever she walked by. The cafeteria was filled with kids in crisp uniforms, laughing loudly, trading snacks, acting as though they had lived in this bubble of privilege all their lives. Nia, with her neatly braided hair and quiet gaze, carried the weight of being the new girl from a neighborhood that many here had only heard about in whispered assumptions. As she approached an empty table, Mrs. Harrington, the cafeteria supervisor known for her strict rules, suddenly stepped in front of her. Her face was sharp, her posture rigid, the pearls around her neck catching the sunlight like a warning. She eyed Nia with a judgment that pierced deeper than words. The room fell quiet as she lifted her hand sharply, palm outward, signaling for Nia to stop. In that frozen moment, the entire cafeteria seemed to lean in. In a voice louder than necessary, Mrs. Harrington exclaimed, "You don't belong here." The words shot through the room like a bolt of lightning. Trays stopped midair. Conversations died instantly. A few students exchanged uneasy glances, others stared openly, but none said a word. Nia stood frozen, her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it echo in her ears. Her throat tightened, and she didn't know whether to turn around, apologize, or disappear entirely. She knew she hadn't done anything wrong, she had simply been trying to eat lunch, but the shame of the moment wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. Mrs. Harrington, still blocking her path, scolded her about being in the wrong area, about rules Nia had never even heard of, but the real message lingered beneath her words, the message that hurt the most: "You are not one of us." Nia swallowed hard and willed herself not to cry. She stood small and alone in the middle of the brightly lit cafeteria, sunlight warm on her skin, but judgment cold in the air around her. She had always been strong, always pushed through, but this moment felt like it might break her. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked before the words could form. Just then, behind her, the cafeteria doors swung open. Nia didn't see him at first, but everyone else did. Heads turned. A few students straightened up. Even Mrs. Harrington paused for a split second. Walking through the glass doors was a tall man in a navy suit, his face tight with concern and purpose. It was Nia's father, Michael Carter, a man who carried himself with calm dignity, a man who had built his life on hard work and perseverance, a man who had raised his daughter to believe she could stand anywhere in the world with her head held high. He had come because he sensed something was wrong. Nia's quiet tone on the phone earlier, the tiny tremble she tried to hide, it had tugged at him all morning. Something had told him to come check on her, and now, as he saw the scene unfolding in front of him, that instinct turned into a fire in his chest. The room fell into a silence so deep you could hear the distant hum of the vending machines. Michael walked straight toward his daughter, not breaking eye contact with Mrs. Harrington. His shoes clicked against the floor with steady certainty as he moved into the beam of daylight flooding the cafeteria. Reaching Nia, he gently placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. She finally looked up at him, her eyes glassy, her courage fragile but still holding on. He squeezed her shoulder lightly, an unspoken promise that he was here, that she was no longer alone in this moment. Turning to Mrs. Harrington, he spoke in a voice calm yet powerful, a voice that carried the weight of a father's love and the steel of righteous anger. He explained that Nia was very much a student here, that she belonged just as much as any other child in this room, and that no child, ever, should be made to feel less than others. His words weren't loud, but they were felt by every person in the cafeteria. Mrs. Harrington's expression shifted. The confidence she had displayed moments earlier melted into discomfort. Whispers moved through the students like ripples in water. A few of them lowered their heads, ashamed for having watched silently. Others looked at Nia with regretful guilt in their eyes. Michael then knelt to meet Nia at eye level, speaking softly to her in a way only a parent could. He reminded her that she was strong, that she deserved the best education, and that her place in this school was earned, not given. His reassurance wrapped around her like a shield, steadying her trembling heart. The principal, alerted by the commotion, soon arrived. After hearing what had happened, she apologized to Michael and Nia right in front of everyone. Mrs. Harrington was instructed to step aside immediately. Students watched in stunned silence as justice unfolded before their eyes, not loud or violent, but firm, real, and kind. When Michael and Nia walked to a table together, something subtle but profound shifted in the atmosphere. A few students bravely approached Nia later that afternoon. Some apologized. Some simply sat near her. It was small, but it mattered. Because sometimes change doesn't start with big speeches, but with quiet acknowledgments that hurt was done and healing must begin. The next days were different. Students who once stared now smiled. A girl from Nia's math class invited her to sit with her. A boy offered to show her where the science lab was. Even the hallways felt less cold. Nia slowly found her footing, discovering that kindness could grow even in places where it seemed absent at first. By the end of the week, she wasn't the girl who stood frozen in fear anymore. She was the girl who survived embarrassment, who witnessed her father stand up for her, and who now walked with a quiet confidence that no one could take from her. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps us spread more positive and emotional stories. Before the ending, here's a special request: tell us in the comments what part of the story moved you the most. In the end, Nia learned something powerful: belonging isn't granted by those who judge us, it's built by the people who stand with us. And sometimes, all it takes is one brave moment, one act of love, to remind us that everyone, no matter who they are, deserves a place where they can shine.
No, es un jugadorazo, para mí no es de selección, está ahí, por algo es. Lo llamó Scaloni, campeón del mundo, así que por algo será. Yo no lo banco. Ahora que voy a estar encima de la selección, que lo voy a ver, ojalá rinda y nada. Ojalá que cada uno sea determinante. Lo Chelsea, excelente. Ezequiel Palacios no lo tengo visto. Me gusta, no lo tengo visto. Tanto. McAllister, no vamos a hablar. Renzo Fernández, no vamos a hablar. Delanteros: Julián Álvarez, Messi, Nico González, Almada, Juliano Simeone. Me parece. Estos dos nombres que voy a decir ahora me parecen, pero excelentes. Y me parecen, más allá de todo esto, necesarios. Juliano Simeone es necesario y Nico Paz ni vamos a hablar. Vamos a sortear. JJ López tiene que estar.